Splat!
Special thanks to Ant Dude for use of your gameplay footage. Because I don't have a capturing device in my new 2DS, and that's the only reason.
Spoilers, alright, okay, nice.
Luigi's Mansion on the Gamecube is a game that I feel was one of Nintendo's biggest risks that massively paid off. It's an atmospheric, fun-filled ride where you set off into a spooky old mansion vacuuming up ghosts, and more importantly, it was a huge change of pace from the standard Mario Bros. Fare. And despite the more subdued and quiet approach, it managed to stick out for all the right reasons and is one of the Gamecube's, nay, one of Nintendo's most memorable releases because of that. And it may not be for everyone, but that's what I love about it. It doesn't pander to Mario fans, it just does its own thing and rocks it from start to end. And it feels great to jump back into this game and see that nostalgic title screen after 17 years now on the Nintendo 3DS. Even the humping is back! Now I know what you're all thinking, why wasn't this released on the Switch? It's infinitely more popular and it's no stranger to porting games from other systems, so why not remake the original Luigi's Mansion there? Well, that's because Luigi's Mansion 2 actually released on the 3DS 5 years ago while the Switch was still a twinkle in Reggie's eye, so here I kinda see the logic. It's the same engine, same base game, a few of the same mechanics like the charged flashlight. It must have been relatively simple to make this a reality, but as I began playing this brand new version of the original Luigi's Mansion, it really made me wish it was on the Switch because the 3DS version of the Gamecube Classic is far from perfect. You could argue this game is automatically better from the fact it is more or less the same game but portable, and it looks really damn sharp and crisp for a remake, plus there's a new co-op feature and even a boss rush mode, but this means nothing when you have some pretty big issues that ultimately make me just want to play the Gamecube version again. But let's at least give it the benefit of the doubt for now, because everything I love about the original game is still here in terms of the atmosphere and gameplay. Firstly, in the atmosphere, there's tons of design choices they kept in from the original, and that makes the game as memorable as it is to me. The choice to not have the biggest OST in the world, but mostly leave it up to Luigi nervously whistling to himself the main theme of the game during your quests through the echoing halls, and then humming along with an organ version of the same theme when in a ghost-infested dark room, I always adored. And the fact that you know when you've sorted out the ghost problems in the mansion by each individual room and hallway lighting up from the darkness is an effective way to convey safeness and progression in the story. Every single room of the mansion has its own feeling with its own unique assets, which in turn gives you entirely new challenges and environmental hazards and puzzles to overcome. And you can even suck up the cobwebs around the mansion because of how dirty it is. It doesn't contribute to anything, but hot damn, it's adorable and it really sucks you into the game. And you can't get more adorable than how the game plays in its concept. It's basically baby's first survival horror game for people brand new to the genre, especially kids that this was aimed at when the game first came out, which was lucky because Resident Evil on the Gamecube was soon to follow, so this was a good starting off point. It's based around trying to avoid threats, but making the decision to waste your time fighting the ghosts attacking you during your treks to other rooms, or trying to avoid them altogether with their projectiles which have a chance to knock your health down. Not only that, you do a lot of puzzle solving and fight monsters to grab keys and head into other rooms of the mansion that you have to walk to, and even though structurally it isn't massively explorable or anything, I mean you grab a key to the next room which nets you a key to the next room, the game is still full of surprises. Essentially, when you aren't protecting yourself from standard ghosts that you need to quickly stun with your torch and then suck up to stop them punching or throwing bombs at you, you're given multiple mini-boss ghosts, one after the other, all with brilliantly charming designs and all that need catching in completely different ways and can even attack you in different ways. With these ghosts, it's never as simple as just stunning them with your torch. You always have to do something a little different to them or to the room itself in order to get them vulnerable. There's chasing, luring, tricking, and sometimes you need to do something wacky to even see them in the first place, and if that's too hard, you can always scan them through the Game Boy Horror unit to get a vague hint. You also mess with the objects and hump things all around you to find money, which improves the final mansion you get at the end of the game, but that's more optional than anything. The other puzzles to access hidden parts of the mansion, secret rooms, and more money are all very creative too and not that tricky, while fitting in with the Haunted Mansion theme, and can even incorporate the elemental abilities you unlock with the spray function of your poltergust vacuum to burn, dampen, or freeze things, and even other ghosts around you. There's secret switches for doors and ghosts that are only visible through mirrors. If a part of your map is greyed out and there's no doors to it, then have a look at an adjacent room and scan a part of the room that doesn't quite fit to see if it transports you there. You use the vacuum to draw back curtains, start ceiling fans, remove sheets from tables and chairs, and because of all of this, exploring the rooms isn't always the exact same tune every time, and catching the random ghosts can be a slightly different experience in each room too. Well, except for the boos, and aside from following your beeping boo radar to find them, catching them is still the biggest pain in the arse that hasn't been changed or fixed whatsoever since the game first came out, and I do not understand why. There is nothing, I repeat, nothing fun about about the boo catching in this game. You find a boo hidden somewhere, then you get taunted by it, and then you only take a fraction of its health off before it buggers off out of the room to another part of the mansion relative to the wall they went through. Then meaning you have to follow it back into the narrow hallways that only allow you to take about 2 extra hit points off before it goes through another wall to another room and then right back out that room again to the hallways. How is this fun? How is this challenging? And it's even better in the earlier parts of the game if you find them and then they escape into a room that you have zero access to at that time, meaning the only way to get them to come back is by leaving the mansion and coming back, while remembering which room the boo originally came from to find it again. It's not too bad when the boo doesn't have much health, but in the late game you get ones with hundreds of hit points, and this can take an agonizingly long time. Screw this whole part of the game, seriously, I really wish this was changed. But you know what? There is one thing I loved. I never realized even when the game first came out that scanning any mirror in the game with the Game Boy Horror warps you right back to the entrance of the mansion. Yeah, I know it's compulsory for a few rooms, but I never realized you could do that with any mirror in the game. That's really cool, and helps by speeding up travel a little bit with the backtracking. But here's where I get even more negative than I feel with the boos, because my main issue with this game is the 3DS itself. First of all, the controls. Now, they're far from awful, but if you ask me, definitely could have been a little bit better. At least with the sequel, there were wider spaces in the level design to fit around how the 3DS itself handles, but here, yeah, this was built for a GameCube controller, and the compromises here, where they definitely work, aren't as good as the original. So you just end up wondering what the hell the point was sticking this on the 3DS in the first place. And before anyone says, yes, I did enjoy Luigi's Mansion 2, and it has a lot of the same ideas with the controls, but firstly, like I said, the game was built a lot more around that control style, and secondly, yeah, it's clunky in a few places, but it did its job at the time really well. Nowadays, it needed to be a little bit updated. For instance, whenever you hold an action button down for vacuuming, spraying, or flashlighting, by default, you tip the whole system up and down to aim it accordingly, which works, don't get me wrong, but unless you tilt the system back to its original state, you often leave Luigi stuck in place until you press the strafe button to reset it. And yeah, the strafe button. When walking around, it makes you strafe, but when already using the poltergust or torch, it makes you walk freely. Not only confusing, but hand cramp inducing when you're holding multiple buttons down and trying to deal with many ghosts at the same time. Personally, I played on a new 2DS XL, so luckily I was able to turn off motion control and use the C stick instead, which is closer to the GameCube style, but still felt really stiff in this remake, especially with some ghosts that require immediate shocking and vacuuming, and the accuracy is a far cry from the GameCube original too. Especially noticeable in the final King Boo Bowser boss when you need to suck up timed explosive bombs and then fire them back when his head is low, and I swear that half the time I just could not get the precise angle the game wanted me to with the C stick. But at the same time, with the additional trigger buttons on the new 2DS and new 3DS, having the flashlight and vacuum right next to each other on your right index finger helped out majorly for easier aiming than messing around with a changing strafe command and motion controls. But this is only because I happen to have a new 2DS XL. I'm not even sure you can turn off motion controls on a regular 3DS. And if not, well, get ready for accidentally flipping the torch all over the room with the motion controls just because you needed to make sure your hands were a little bit more comfortable on the device in that precise moment. Not to mention, the performance of this game isn't that great either. I mean, sure, it looks better than the original, I suppose, but at what cost? I was getting frame drops all over the damn place, and it was never unplayably bad or anything, but still worse compared to the original 17 years ago, so it makes you think, why wasn't this on the Switch again? Although it is pretty good how the dual screens of the 3DS are used really well, with the map always being accessible and easy to see where you need to go by just tapping the rooms. That's really nice. But overall, I mean, well, if you've never played Luigi's Mansion 1 before, own a new 3DS or new 2DS system for the C-Stick and triggers, and don't want to shell out for a pre-owned GameCube copy of the game itself, you can do a lot worse than this 3DS version of the original. It's still the same game, it's portable, it looks sharper, it's still the same gameplay and atmosphere, but I can't lie when I say it's still more finicky than it should have been and ultimately disappointed me slightly. And that's with the slightly more ideal control scheme in mind on the more expensive version of the same console. Not even that sweetheart Luigi saving his brother and crying in joy is enough to save this one fully, so once again, I can only recommend you checking this one out if you really want to see what the original game was like without needing the GameCube. And it's still worth going back to, it's still a good game, but I just think the GameCube one is better, that's all. If it's your birthday today while watching this video, happy friggin' birthday to you, and please remember to stay beautiful. Hello again, everybody. Now, this video was supposed to go out on Halloween. I'm really sorry it didn't. And by the way, happy Halloween. If you had a good Halloween, that is. I hope you had a good Halloween. Hope it was fun and safe, but still pretty spooky stuff. But yeah, I figured that everybody was going to be releasing videos on Halloween for Halloween specials and stuff. So I figured, you know what? There's no rush. I can just delay this one by a day so that everyone can calm down. And I mean, Luigi's Mansion isn't that scary anyway. So even though it would have made sense thematically with releasing it on Halloween, it's a lot more kid friendly, so there wasn't any kind of emergency to get it out. But hey, I hope you enjoyed the video, and special thank you to all the people on screen right now that have helped support me via my Patreon page, and special thanks to all of my top tier supporters for October. Omar Matu, William Sanborn, Mitchell Reed, DC Dungeon Master, Braden Kenny, Jake Delahaye 2008, AD Thornton Smith, Exopaz, Thomas Olson, QB, Nathan Young, I Have a Portal Gun, Cyberpunk Symphony, Mills Kahai, Oblivion Rising, Matthew Hubble, Binary Code, Daniel Leon, Kirsten B, and Brandon. Great name there. Thank you so much, every single one of you.